Let's get ready to rumble! He's taken another one, and Howard Foster has stopped it! Wow!
This is Thomas Lyons from Raps on TV. I'm fortunate to be joined on the phone with 7-0 prospect, 3 knockouts, 24-year-old Linus Udofia. How you doing, Linus?
Yeah, I'm all good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, very well. How's training gone in preparation? We know you've got your next scheduled fight on the 17th of March. Could you tell us a little bit about how training's gone and the event itself?
Yeah, 17th of March is, so 17th of March is another Haymaker show. I think Joe Joyce is top in the bill. I'm not sure about the rest of the fighters, Willie Hutchinson and the rest. I'm not really sure about them. But I know Joe Joyce is top in the bill. Should be a really good card, to be fair. A lot of good prospects on there. And yeah, it should just be really good. I'm really looking forward to actually just getting in there now again, after just coming off a win a week ago, really. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to getting in there, kind of getting this year going. I started off the year with a win, so I'm really happy about that. And yeah, I'm just back in the gym now. Everything's just sharpening up again. So I'm well in line to go again. So everything's been really well. Training's going really well. Start sparring again. Everything's exactly where you want it to be right now.
Yeah.
So we're happy. We're pretty happy in the gym.
And I think that's the main positive from what fighters give away from their training camp life, that everything's gone accordingly and they're in fighting fit shape to get the ball rolling on fight night. So it's great to hear that preparation's gone well for yourself. And I'm just looking here at your resume, and it seems to be that York Hall's sort of a fortress for yourself. Like you've fought there on numerous occasions. Again, you'll fight there on the 17th of March against Geraint Goodridge. Another fight, another stepping stone for yourself to, elevate yourself and, showcase the skills that you do possess. So, what's your whole take in the atmosphere of such a closely knit venue like York Hall?
It's like a second home, isn't it, really, when you fought there that many times now. It's a home of boxing, isn't it? Everyone knows it for that, and everyone really, the people that come out. And everyone really knows it. I've got to know it quite well. I'm really fortunate to fight there as many times as I have. And it's a really good place. A lot of people seem to like it. A lot of people that come into my fight seem to really enjoy it. So I'm glad to be calling it home.
Yeah, and last time out you were against William Warburton. A points victory for yourself. What would you assess? How would you assess the performance that you displayed on the 16th of February? Again, another packed card featuring the likes of Willie Hutchinson and Joe Joyce. So a great platform for yourself to get a few rounds in the bank and showcase what you're all about.
Well, yeah, I think the night, boxing wise, went quite successfully. Sorry. As that was the plan, everything changed last minute, and that was, the plan was to kind of, we were ready for all of that anyway, so, when things went wrong, it's what it is, it is what it is. I wasn't too fast, we just kind of, wanted, the main key was making sure we fought, because there was a lot of things on the outside that, would have been very detrimental. If we didn't fight, a lot of things could have been really, problematic. But the main key was to fight. So we got the fight and we got the win exactly how we wanted it. We win. We approached that fight when we got the opponent. We approached that fight like he's very durable. He's someone really good to learn off. If you try and take it easy and try and get complacent, he can really put some damage on you. So we have to be sharp every single round, just kind of get the victory and get the job done and go home. That was the main objective. And the first fight back in about nearly half a year.
Yeah.
The objective was to get the job done and kind of shake the cobwebs off.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually ringside for that fight, and I saw watching yourself perform, and you're just very, like you've elaborated there, very switched on, very focused on the job in hand, not overestimating, not underestimating your opponent in front of you, just getting, that experience, soaking it all in. I think it was a very, very well polished performance from yourself. So yeah, it's just sort of it. Yeah. So is it a case of just building on the momentum that you've carried into the new year?
Of course, yeah. This is ideally before the Dumet fight. After the Dumet fight, I kind of played around with fighting in November maybe, but I personally didn't think I could sell it. But looking back, I think I could have. But obviously at the time I just had doubts in myself, and I went, I don't really want to. I didn't really want to, risk it. I didn't really want to have to go into the fight and then have to pull out because I couldn't sell it. So I just went, forget it. You know what? Let's just leave it. The new year will be better. And that's the reason I wasn't active. That's the reason I wasn't active really, because there was no other shows later on in that year. So I just went, okay, fine. You know what? It is what it is. Let me just relax. Take the rest of the year off. Start training. I started training midway through December. And started training through December, and then that was it really. And we're here now, so with the momentum, the momentum I gained from that Met fight, it would have been ideal to fight in November as well, but it's just certain things. I just didn't think I could sell it, so I didn't do it. But coming back off that and then fighting, and then when I assessed my performance, when I've watched it over a few times now, I didn't really think I lost too much. I didn't really think there was a lot to shake off. I kind of just got right back into work, really.
Yeah.
So, I didn't really feel like there was any cobwebs or I didn't feel like there was anything to shake off. I didn't think there was any ring rust or anything.
Yeah. And obviously being making your debut on the 19th of March 2016, it'll be 2 years nearly by the time when you step in for your 8th professional fight. A 2-year period for yourself, which has shown a lot of, it's been a very healthy time for yourself in terms of getting those fights, getting those learning fights earlier on in your career. So as you've said there, it's sort of a case of, there is no ring rust and it's just building, yourself in terms of experience and in terms of quality of opponents. So do you feel the same about the that sort of assessment of how the 2 years have gone?
Yeah, everything has gone how we wanted it to. There was a few fights where opponents pulled out, opponents been injured, but that's all expected. I wasn't, I personally never took that. But just when I can only fight when they put in front of me, and I've been happy with everyone they put in front of me because everyone's been assessed. Every single fight's been assessed. So yeah, and that's how I want to carry. That's how I want to go on.
Perfect. So just moving on to some news over the weekend. Very sad news of the passing away of Scott WESTGARTH. What was your whole take on the situation with Scott? Such a tragic loss for the boxing world, and just sort of elaborating that accidents do happen in boxing and it should be treated seriously.
Yeah, it's another, it's another massive loss. Just like you said, it's a horrible thing, to happen. A man losing his life during what, trying to chase his dreams,
Yeah, 100%.
It's a horrible. It really chokes me up sometimes when I hear things like that. But it's these are the dangers of what we do, and maybe there's some precautions we could, the board could take in. Maybe there could be more medicals, more regular medicals. But then again, in their sense, it's a lot more expensive. It's very expensive. Then it becomes a lot more expensive than it is.
Yeah.
It's just, it's sad to think as well. He won the fight. He beat the guy who was meant to fight, and he went into the back room. But allegedly, this is all I heard. He went into the back room and he just said he didn't feel well. He felt sick, and then they took him to the hospital, and all of a sudden he's dead.
Yeah, it's a mad situation.
What on earth? What the hell? You just really, you can't. With this sport, we all do our best. The aim of the game is to obviously hit, not get hit. We all try to stay safe as best we can, but sometimes these things just happen.
Yeah.
These things do happen. It happens. It scares me. All thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Yeah.
Definitely. And you yourself have actually fought Dan Blackwell, who's the brother of Nick Blackwell, and obviously everyone knows how what's happened to Nick in the last few years, how he sustained those injuries after fighting Chris Eubank Jr. And it just like raises the point. Like I've seen quite a lot of stuff on social media the last few days. You know, a lot of negative comments about the whole situation in the aftermath of Scott Westgarth's death. Some very despicable comments I've come across. I won't name any names or say who made comments.
I was going to say, best not to give these people light. That's what they want. We don't need to give them.
No, we don't need to entertain that sort of attitude because that's
not what we do. We're all in this sport, and it's disgusting when you see things like that, especially when someone's lost their life.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll move away from the dark sort of end of the sport where we always pray that nothing happens and nothing is boxers when they come out of a fight they're 100% healthy, and everyone likes the entertainment side of sport, but I think definitely the overriding concentration and concern is the fighter's well-being, and that should be held as the highest point of the sport. So you yourself campaigning at middleweight, we had a fight the other week on the World Boxing Super Series card between George Groves and Chris Eubank Jr. for the British middleweight title between Tommy Langford and Isaac Lowe. How did you have that fight? How did you? What was your reflection of that fight?
Tommy Langford and what was his name? Jack Arnfield.
Oh yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah, sorry, Jack Arnfield. No, not Isaac Lowe. Sorry.
Yeah. I watched that. I kept a close eye on that, funny enough, because it's my weight and it's what we're aiming for. I mean, those are the heights we want to get to, and we have to see what opposition are there in a minute. So, and it was a really clinical. I think it was a really clinical win for Langford, because he came out and he was very strong at the start of the round, and you can just see Langford just get settled in. As soon as he settled in, that was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As soon as he settled in, I knew he controlled the pace and he was going to win the fight relatively comprehensively.
Yeah.
So, I was very impressed. I was really impressed with that, and it just kind of it makes you look at it, and obviously you always say to yourself, oh, I know what you like to think you know what you'd do if you were the opponent, or what you would do if you were fighting this guy. But it's easy to sit there from the outside and watch it, but to get in and actually do it, this is all what we're aiming for. It's what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for all those. For all those bits. I'd love to win the British guy. In my opinion, the most beautiful goat in the world.
Yeah.
And I'd love to win that outright. And it's all it's all there. It's a good fight. It was a really good fight. It's nice to see British level fighters like that fighting each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, go on.
And was it Isaac Lowe as well? And Isaac Lowe for the Commonwealth, was it?
No, he fought for the British title as well against one of the Walsh brothers.
Ryan Walsh.
Yeah, that's it.
I personally, just put it out there, I personally thought Walsh won by 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought he won, but it was a good fight though.
Yeah, very good. Very good night of boxing, actually. And just touching on the main event, actually, because I'm sure you've watched it yourself. Saw George.
I won a lot of money on that. Fight.
So yeah, we saw George Groves retain his WBA super middleweight title against Chris Eubank Jr. Obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. moving up from your weight class up to super middleweight, not being the naturally fully fledged super middleweight. Do you think that played against him on the night?
Big time. It played against him massively. He couldn't. George, and not only the size. I'm not taking anything away from George, because he showed class.
Yeah.
He showed excellent boxing. He showed how to control the fight, going forward, going backwards, and staying in the center of the ring. He showed how to control the fight. No matter what anyone says, this is how I expect it. Yeah. I thought George Groves just literally showed every single thing in his arsenal. He did really. I had Eubank knocked down twice, but
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I thought George Groves did exactly what I thought he was going to do, which was control it with his jab and try to sink that right hand in when Eubank tried to come forward. And the key to George Groves actually winning was not letting Eubank get started and get working with that jab. He wouldn't let him get settled and walk in and just start working away. he just kept that jab right in his face, and Eubank couldn't do anything. As you can see, he had no plan B, he had nothing. He had absolutely nothing to offer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, and the round that I scored him, at the end of the fight, I scored it about 5 rounds, like 5 or 4 rounds to go. So, you know, I thought he was good. I was happy to see that, because that's what I wanted to see. No disrespect to Eubank, no hating on him either, but I just, from what I've observed, this is just my opinion, by the way.
Yeah.
From what I saw, when he left the middleweight, I thought he did that because the harder opposition was in the middleweight division. All the world titles, it was a harder division to try and win a world title.
Yeah.
In the super middleweight division. No disrespect to anyone in the super middleweight division either.
No, I agree.
He left because of that reason. He had, you know, Triple G to go up against, Billy Joe to go up against. You know what I mean? I think he had harder opposition to go up against in the middleweight division than he did in the super middleweight. That's why he chose the route to go for Quinlan, win that belt. So now he has an argument to the table. You know what I mean? He has something to argue with. And then he got himself the Super Series, which I think is very smart marketing, because he's made himself a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people argue with the legitimacy of the IBO belt he won against Quinlan. I think it was just a case of, you know, moving up to super middleweight, there was such a wealth of opportunity for him to win a world title, and not necessarily easier path, but like you said there, the caliber of opponents at middleweight with the likes of Golovkin, Canelo, Saunders, Jacobs, Lemieux, like much higher established names in the sport. So
exactly, and it's and with the super middleweight, you know, it was all there. They planned it out, and you see that they had won it. They won the belt. Quinlan can get like something to bring to the table, and then they got themselves into this super series, and you know that she started from there really. But you know, also after that, you know, with the whole ITV thing, you know, he made himself a lot. My friend made himself a lot of money, and hasn't taken the most risk. You know, he's made himself a lot of money, like not having to put so much into it. And it just, I personally wanted, you know, it was a good fight, and I was rooting for George anyway, because I just knew, come on, it's not in boxing purist eyes, it's not hard to see who wins when, you know, there's a boxer and a fighter. Yeah. The boxer's big, got more range, had more experience, fought at a better level, fought at a more elite level for longer. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy to see who's going to win. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not easy. I was surprised so many people. I spoke to so many people where I watched it, and they were all saying to me that, yeah, they've got Eubank winning it. And I'm thinking, I don't understand how you think Eubank can win. Like, let's put these things on the table.
Yeah.
How do you think you can win this fight? And they were all saying, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. I was like, Eubank can't. He can just about punch a middleweight. He's not going to be able to punch more at super middleweight.
Yeah, especially when he's not got.
Bigger men.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's put all these factors in there. You can't just, because you've seen a few training videos of him, you know, you can't. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. But look, it is what it is. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I'm happy. I'm happy he lost. I'm just happy George Groves won it, because I think he deserves it more. Not in a sense of, oh, how hard he works or whatever, because we all know Eubank works very hard. But for what George Groves has achieved and what everything has gone through in the sport, I think he deserves this as well as that world title and the unification.
Yeah, and I think you can take. Yeah, I think you can take two sides to the sort of the debate. You obviously got George Groves, who just performed absolutely incredibly. You know, it's probably arguably his best performance to date. Obviously coming off the losses against Froch twice, and then obviously the Badu Jack defeat. So a lot of people argued that, you know, did he have enough left in the tank, you know, to go on and win a world title? He obviously achieved that against Chudinov on the Brooke Spence card, but then to like come out with a performance like that, it was a complete shutout, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was brilliant game plan. It was just a brilliant game plan and brilliantly executed, in my opinion. Yeah, it was wicked. He didn't stay on the ropes too long. He didn't really give Eubank anything to chew on, and that was the factor. He didn't let him bully any. He didn't let him bully him, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you need to do. And it was good. It was really good. It was just, you know what I mean? That was what, as a boxer, I really enjoyed watching that, because, you know what I mean, it shows you different ways. You know what I mean? There's so many different ways to beat people, and it just shows a different way of doing it. And you know what I mean? As a boxer, you're learning every day. You're learning off every single fighter, past and present. So that's a very good fight for modern day boxing. That's a very good fight for British boxing. That's an awesome fight. I'm glad that fight happened.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely captivated both sides of the sort of, you know, the boxing audience, because I think it was a case of, you know, obviously touching on the side to which Eubank underperformed to some extent with, you know, because we see a lot of his training techniques, you know, a lot of rash, a lot of wild punches being thrown in sparring, you know, not really like a strategic or, you know, systematic way of breaking a fighter down, where he's so good up close, but it's just the case of with Groves' long jab, it was just hard to get inside of Groves to get any success, really.
And you can see he just could not get in. You know, with all that, I think to be honest, you know, I mean, you got like you said, you got to look at both sides of it. I'm not sure it's meant in the sense of I looking at both sides of it in the sense of both training camps. You look at George Groves, he had excellent sparring. He had everything. Everything was just. It looked like they'd planned a lot out. They'd had a plan B through C. You know what I mean? With Eubank, it looked like their plan was to work, and if that wasn't working, work harder.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's just what I observed. That's what I observed.
No, definitely. And just going back to your division, we obviously got in April the 14th at the O2 Arena. We got WBO middleweight champion Billy Joe Saunders defending his strap against Martin Murray. Last chance saloon for Martin Murray, would you feel?
Yeah, I'd say so. I thought, because I thought when he fought Gabriel Rosado, I thought, you know, that's a good fight. That's a hard fight, and that will show if he's still there. You know what I mean? If he's still there.
Yeah.
I don't. To an extent, I'm not sure if it's his last chance, because he's going against Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You can't really expect no disrespect to Murray or anything, but I'm not expecting too much from him against Billy Joe Saunders. I don't think I don't really think he'll do. I don't think he'll cause him any problems, in my opinion. So I don't really think it's his last chance. I think he needs another fight. To say that, I think it's another fight like Gabriel Rosado. That's more of his last chance, because that kind of shows you what level he's at. We all know what level he's going to be at against Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah.
Just in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, with the middleweight division thriving at the moment, we obviously got Billy Joe's WBO title in the mix. But then again, we've got on Cinco de Mayo weekend, Canelo Alvarez against Gennady Golovkin, the rematch for that middleweight supremacy. But do you feel, in terms of the winner of that fight, do you think Billy Joe will be able to get in line at the end of the year to unify the division?
100%. I don't see why not. It depends. You know what? It depends who wins it.
Yeah.
It depends who wins it. If Triple G wins it, we can see that fight happening at the end of the year. If Canelo wins it, we won't see that fight happen.
And do you think it's the politics side of things from Canelo's team that's going to...
100%. You can just see it from the last fight. I had Triple G winning that fight 3 rounds. Enough to 3 rounds. I had him winning it by 3 rounds. Again, it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I had him winning it by 3 rounds. Yeah, Canelo boxed excellently. He boxed brilliantly. He just did nothing for like 2 minutes of like almost every round. You know what I mean? He looked great for a minute, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you just cannot, unless you're well out of the way and dancing around the ring, you're not going to win that round.
Yeah.
Triple G's there beating. I wouldn't say beating on him so bad, but some shots getting through, and even scoring and even counting.
Yeah.
And to score, I don't know, to score a draw, I just thought, wow.
Well, particularly one of the scorecards, I'm not too sure which of the 3 panelists scored it, but I think it was 118-110 to Canelo, which I thought was just ridiculous, really, because I think in terms of the reason why Golovkin probably isn't given the credit he deserves is just because of his relentless, come forward style, which for someone like Canelo and his skills and his capabilities in terms of counterpunching, I think it's easier for the judges to score rounds to Canelo when he's been able to counterpunch so effectively with someone coming right at him on his chest. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair comment. Yeah, that's a very fair comment. It's easier to score cleaner work instead of just more work. It's easier to score the cleaner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know Canelo is the cleaner fighter, but when we really look at it, Golovkin's controlling the fight. He's landing arguably more punches. Yeah, he's working, and that doesn't always win you rounds because you can be working but not actually doing anything, which I think he was working and landed to an extent. Not enough to, say, oh, you know what, Canelo's getting beaten up here, but at the same time to say, Golovkin's comfortably winning some of these rounds.
Yeah.
But then again, like when we say the whole Billy Joe and unification, that I don't think Golden Boy want to go near a fighter that can box, because Canelo can box, but we've seen him outbox twice against Lara and Mayweather, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the best fighter in the world, and there's only Lara, but do you know what I mean? I think Billy Joe would box his head off, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think he'd box his head right off. It'd be a really good fight, but I think Billy Joe would box his head off.
Yeah. And I think with Billy Joe's masterful performance against Lemieux back in December, I think it just shows that there is a blueprint to beat fighters right at the elite level of the division. And who do you predict to win the rematch on May the 5th between Golovkin and Canelo?
If it's like the way it was, I see it like the way it was before. Just Canelo being boxing better. I think he's going to be boxing better. I still think he's going to fade though, because he does every fight. He seems to fade. He seems to really fade every fight. But I think he's going to fade a little bit, which I don't think Golovkin can. You know what I mean? In the first fight he did it. I don't think he will this fight. I don't think he'll be able to kind of dent that. I think Canelo, will box blindly. He'll box better than he did last time, and he'll box better than he did last time, and just I think he'll. Not nick the rounds better, but I think he'll do a lot better, and it'll be a lot more like you can actually say, you know what, that was a lot more even. And if it is like that, I think it's going to be quite a 50-50 fight. And if it is like that, I think Canelo's going to take it. Just as is the Golden Boy, and Cinco de Mayo. It's all set up for. Do you know what I mean? I can't. If it's close, I can't see Canelo not getting it. Yeah.
Well, thanks anyway for we've managed to get through a lot of different aspects and different topics. But is there anything else you want to get off your chest? Any message to your fans that will be tuning in on March 17th or that will be at the fight?
Just a quick message. Quick message to all of them that are coming to the fight. A massive thank you for those who came to the last one and are coming to this one. I really, really appreciate the support. As always, I really, really appreciate your continued support. It means the world to me. I really look forward to seeing all you lot there. And, tickets are still available. Ringsides are running really low. Standards are still available. And you can get ringsides off me or through my website on LINUSUDOFIA.com.
Yeah.
And a massive shout out again to Scott
WESTGARTH.
Westgard, who lost his life. It's always a bit of a shame in boxing. It's always a shame when that happens. But it is part of the sport, and we just have to try our best to just be safe and just keep moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thanks for giving your condolences to Scott WESTGARTH and his family. Do you want to shout out your social media platforms? Any sponsors you want to give a shout out, just so that the Raps on TV audience can tune in and watch your fight and how your career unfolds?
A massive shout out to my sponsors, Seawood & Sons, JFB Sports, GB Staffing, LJB Electrical Contractors, D&I Butchers, Corfit Pilates, Advanced Roofing Services, All Time Removals. I'm pretty sure that is it, but I'm sure I forgot one as well. It always happens. I think that's it. And my social medias are Linus _Udofia at Linus _Udofia, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, really.
Yeah, perfect, perfect, Linus. Thanks again for giving us some of your time today. We appreciate it, and wish you the best of luck for the rest of your training camp, champ. And it's good to get you on the channel. It's first time being on it, and hopefully we can get more content and give you some more exposure in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries, mate. Top man.